Hi, I'm Maggie Lakowski from Maggie Moon Tarot, and here are the vibes for the week. Last Thursday, Mercury moved into Sagittarius and remains there for 3 weeks. This dynamic duo brings us opportunities, good cheer, fun, and surprises, as you never know what's awaiting us around the corner, so expect the best. And we have some fire and air signs coming up this week, so it's all about passionate thinking. Together we have flashes of great insight and inspiration. And then Monday, December 1st, there's a trine between the Moon in Aries and the Sun in Sagittarius. And later in the week, Mars moves into Aquarius, a collective effort with people in relationships and projects with great vision. And the Moon is in her last days of her waxing phase, so we can tie up any loose ends or unresolved projects before the full moon in Gemini blesses us. And this week I'm reading with the Magical Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt. In all Lisa's decks, she engages our senses and that feeling of wonder as we're off to discover the web of enchantment her characters weave. And as we begin the reading this week, we start with Once Upon a Time. We begin this week with the Princess of Swords. And traditionally in this deck, she's the Knight of Swords. And it's a story of Thumbelina, a Danish fairy tale. Tiny Thumbelina was abducted by a toad, a beetle, and a field mice. Gave her refuge. But wherever she went, someone was trying to marry off Thumbelina. She loved the freedom of the meadows and being around flowers. And finally, the swallow, the same bird she found for Dad and nursed back to health during one of her seemingly dire situations, swooped down and asked her if she would come fly and play with him. She escaped by jumping on the swallow's back, and they flew high above the oceans and forests, changing their landscapes until they came to the meadow filled with flowers. This is where Thumbelina made her home and became the Flower Queen. And yes, she did meet the sprite, or fairy king. So as in the fairy tale, the Princess of Swords reminds us of our resiliency through all situations and the kindness we can give to others during that time. And like Thumbelina gave to the swallow, even when we're facing great challenges in our own life. And swallows are seen as protectors, harbingers of hope and new beginnings. And in the companion book, Lisa writes, the bird and the girl fly through the mist, leaving their troubles behind. The girl holds her sword, directing her energies towards new pastures. So we too can fly above the everydayness and difficult challenges of life, directing our energies on new adventures. What bird or symbol might come into your life to help you change your landscape? And then midweek, the Three of Cups. And that's a card of emotions, celebration. It's a Danish fairy tale called Ida's Little Flower. And there was a little girl who loved flowers and picked a bouquet from the garden. The next morning she awoke and they were wilted. A friend told Ida a magical story about how the flowers danced all night while everyone was asleep. The king and queen of the flowers presided over the ball. They would gently remove themselves from the soil, and they would fly high in the night skies, sending their fragrances and spreading them wherever they went. The flowers were so exhausted in the morning from dancing, they wilted. So before Ida went to sleep, she took her doll from the doll bed and placed her flowers there so that they could rest up for the evening dance. And during the night, Ida heard enchanting music and went outside and saw her flowers and many more along with the king and queen. Her doll and the fae were dancing and celebrating. And in the morning, her flowers had faded from exhaustion, but Ida held that beautiful memory forever in her heart. So the Three of Cups and the fairy tale speak to us of emotional abundance that life and flowers bring to us, their sweetness, and the many ways that they can bring beauty into our lives. They remind us to celebrate with each other. And the full moon outside in the card in the window brings the promise of our dreams being fulfilled. The doll can be the symbol of our soul or divine child within that never stops dreaming or wanting to find ways to play and celebrate the simple things in life. And then at the end of the week, the hermit comes up. And that's the story of the Wood Fairy, a Czechoslovakian fairy tale. A young girl named Batushka lived with her mother and would go out every day with the sheep and spin flax under a tree. Midday, she would put down her work and go into the woods and play and dance for a while. One day, she met a woman with gray hair, beautiful flowing cape and skirt, and the woman asked Batushka to dance with her. They danced and twirled, lifting up from the ground into the air. And when she got back to her basket and work, the lady had magically spun the flax, and the spindle was full. Every day Batushka danced with the enchanting lady until one day the lady told her not to look into the basket until she returned home. But Batushka was curious and looked before reaching her house, only to find reeds. She was crying, and when her mother looked into the basket, she said, "You have met the Wood Fairy." And when they both looked in the basket, they were filled with gold coins. Her mother told Batushka that the Wood Fairy rewarded those who worked hard, but also found time for enchantment. The fairy tale reminds us of our need for rest, reflection, as do the sleeping lambs in the card. And there's something sacred going on when we take time to dream, journal, and see things that might seem a bit fantastical, but in actuality ground us in reality. The Hermit is key card 9 in Tarot, about completion, and as our moon is moving to her fullness, take time to reflect on the more playful and light activities we can do around the time of the full moon. The Wood Fairy might come for a visitation for us and transmute one of our dreams into reality. And that, my friends, are the vibes for the week. So if you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to click on the like and subscribe buttons. And I have included a transcript in the About section of the video, along with a link to Lisa Hunt's website and her exquisite art and decks, and a link to my website, MaggieMoonTarot.com, in case you'd like to contact me or schedule a reading. So, until we meet again next week, believe in miracles, laugh often, love much, create your own happiness, be kind, support each other. Namaste.